Greetings, ambassadors. Today's lesson is on map analysis skills. Your learning target is I can analyze and interpret the data on thematic maps. You'll be looking at a political map, physical geography map, climate map, population density map, and a GDP map. But first, let's review our lesson, our vocabulary words. Population density. This is how many people live in a certain area. It tells how crowded a place is. It is measured by how many people live in a square mile. For example, in this green zone, it is a high population density because it is crowded. In the lighter green areas, it is a lower population density because there are fewer people that live there and it is not crowded. When we look at population density, we can classify these areas as urban or rural. Urban describes areas with high population density. Urban areas are usually crowded cities with lots of people. You'll usually see tall buildings and cityscapes. A rural area describes areas with low population density. Rural areas are typically called the countryside, and you'll see farmland and wide open spaces. To analyze how often or how geography affects population density, you often have to look at multiple maps at the same time. This one is a population density map. It shows how many people live in a region. The middle map is a physical map that shows the Rocky Mountain areas in the same location where the population density here shows a very low population. And the climate map shows what the climate is like in this highlighted area. There's highlands and grasslands here. A political map will show the country's borders, as you see by the lines. There are four main countries in North America: Canada, United States, and Mexico. Part of Central America is in North America. Physical geography features can cross borders, such as lakes and rivers, which are shared between two different countries here. The next map is a population density map. To understand a population density map, first read the title, North America's Population Density, and look at the key, which shows the population or people per square mile. And if you can look at this a little closely, it shows that the lighter the color, the lower the population density is. So when you're interpreting this map, you can see that the lower areas are in Canada, and the higher population densities are in this darker purple color. And you notice that they are near the coastlines right here in New York and in the Northeast and in California along the western coast up to Washington. There's a reason why population density patterns are like this. You'll have to examine the other maps to find a pattern. When we look at a physical map of the United States and North America, you'll see that the Rocky Mountains are along this western side of the continent. And if you flip back to the population density map, it shows a lower population density because of that physical feature. Now, why do you think there's lower population density in northern Canada? To answer that question, we'll look at a climate map. These are the major climate regions of North America. Tropical climates are green, and grassland, semi-arid, and desert are all included in tropical climates. Subtropical climates include humid, subtropical, and desert. Temperate climates are also known as the moderate climates, which are kind of like the average temperature that is not too hot and not too cold. And then we have the extreme polar climates, which are the purple areas at the northern part of Canada. Now, if we flip back to the population density map and the physical map, we can conclude that there is less people living up there because it is much colder and a harsher climate. We could also conclude that there will be less people living in the mountain areas because of that mountainous geography. Now, why would more people live on the coasts and in the Northeast and on the West Coast? Think of economic reasons. These have access to ports, access to transportation over the ocean, and trade. You can see this political map. You'll notice that ships can travel from other continents and countries and transport their goods and services to the coastlines right here and along the Gulf. Finally, let's look at the North American GDP per capita map. As you can see, the darker the green, the higher the GDP is. And the darker the orange or reds, it is a much lower GDP. Now, as we look at the North American map, we notice that which country has the lowest GDP and is most likely a developing country. Which country has a higher GDP? And which states have higher GDPs? The states are normally, look at the location of it. It is along the coast of the Pacific and the northeast coast of the United States. Now, there's a couple different reasons why there are also high GDPs in the central part, and that might be due to more resources that are available in those countries and those country and or regions of that country. So, in summary, as you look at each of these maps, think about how each theme is interrelated and affects other features. For example, the geography of the maps is going to affect where people live. That includes the climate, and it will also influence the population density and where cities are going to grow. Colder climates, such as in the north, will most likely have lower population densities. Population densities are higher along the coasts and both coasts, Pacific and the Atlantic coast, because of trade and transportation, which includes the waterways. Don't forget the steps to analyze a map. Read the title first, understand the purpose, then examine the key, and then look at the map and the patterns that you see on the map. And that will help you answer the questions that are being asked.